Hi, everyone, and welcome to Persona Interviews here in Westport. My name is Rob Simmelcare, the founder of Persona. We want to say hi to everybody out there watching on the Westport Library live stream, as well as on Dan Woog 06880. We are excited. This is the second installment of our live interview series at the Westport Library, and it is a great treat for me as a media professional in Westport to introduce two of the many media stars that we've got here in our fine town. I come from the world of sports, and if you are a sports fan, you almost certainly know Lindsay Czarniak from her amazing career at ESPN, now at Fox Sports. She was the sole anchor of the ESPN 6 o'clock Sports Center for many years, now does NASCAR studio as well as NFL sidelines for Fox. And this is a special treat for me to have Marysol Castro here as our guest tonight. Marysol and I were actually once colleagues at the Walt Disney Company when she was at Good Morning America back in the day. She has gone on to an amazing career in news and sports. She now, close to my heart, serves as the in-stadium PA announcer for my very favorite team, the New York Mets, where she is the first Latina ever to serve in that role for any major league team. And you can tell when you go to Mets games, the pronunciations of all those Latin names, better than any you'll ever find around Major League Baseball. I'm sure the players appreciate it too. So
I had no idea you were a Mets fan.
Oh, absolutely. We've got to make some tickets happen out of this. So Lindsay and Marysol, thank you for joining us. I'm going to hand the mic over to Lindsay.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Rob.
Rob, yeah, a round of applause for Rob, who,
Yes.
this is amazing. The funny thing is, we both, first of all, like I have 5 million questions for you.
I
We
have 7
literally
million
just
for
met.
you, so.
So her sister teaches my daughter gymnastics. She walked in and I was like, wait, what? And then my neighbors are here, which is amazing.
That's a very Westport story.
It is.
I love
It's
that.
so funny. But what's funny about Marysol, so she just came back from spring training with the Mets. I just came back from spring training with the Nationals. And the And the funny thing is, the world champions will be playing at your Mets for the Mets opening day.
That's right.
In New York.
I will be there.
Yeah, perfect.
I actually don't mind the Nats.
Good.
Just so, you know, just so
it's a
we're
thing.
clear.
I
yeah.
think the Mets are very nice. Like
We're
they're like
a
a
nice
team.
ball. They're very
They're-
nice boys.
Right.
Those Mets. I go to the clubhouse and I say, you are all the little brothers I never had nor
Yes.
wanted.
Right.
Now go out there and win, fellas.
So wait, there's a lot to talk about spring training wise and stuff, but you do a million different things.
I
Can
have
you take
to.
us through what your jobs
I'll work
are?
backwards. I am the chauffeur, tutor, chef, and mostly mother to 2 boys who I just took to wrestling. So there's that. That's the
Okay.
unpaid full-time gig.
Yes.
I am also one of the hosts for the PIX 11 Morning News, the 9 o'clock hour,
That's awesome.
which just started in September. I'm entering my 3rd year as the PA announcer for the New York Mets. I am also very fortunate enough to be the host of the wildly popular CT Bites podcast. The hashtag boss lady, Stephanie Webster, ladies and gentlemen, just walked in. Thanks for coming, Steph. What else do I do? I speak sometimes. You know, with all these paychecks, I
Yeah.
put them all together, and that's how I'm able to live in Westport.
I love it. It's perfect. And do you sleep ever?
Not much. Not
Okay.
much. We were just saying I did the morning show on Friday.
Yep.
And raced to LaGuardia Airport. I thought about leaving my car at the ballpark for free parking, but it was going to take too long.
Perfect.
Flew out to Port St. Lucie, did Saturday's game, did Sunday's game, came home last night at 11:30, and woke up at 5 this morning.
Okay.
And I knew that you and I were going to gab.
Yep.
So I kept my false lashes on.
Yep.
My TV makeup on.
I love it. And sometimes I actually don't wash my makeup
Nor
at
sh-
night.
nor should
and
you
then
just-
if
you
you
sleep
get
like
the right
this.
liner, you're good.
Yes.
It's the Kat Von D like liquid. That's the truth.
Exactly.
It will last for 3 days.
Yes.
I've tried it.
Yes.
But I don't recommend it.
But
'cause I
you're also fresh off of spring training.
I am.
You were an hour north of us.
Right. So I was in West Palm covering the Nationals, and I was down there for the station I used to work for in Washington, NBC. They asked me to come down and work for them for a week and do that coverage, which was amazing because I was there during the World Series run, and it was the most magical thing I've ever been a part of, and it was awesome.
Did you cry?
I felt like I was going to cry. I still feel like I'm going to throw up when I
Really?
think about it. And the funny thing is, when my husband asked me to marry him, my reaction, I said, I think I'm going to throw up. And that's what he tells people, because we were on a boat in Miami, and that's all I could say. And it was like, I was so happy. But for some reason, when I'm happy, that's like my reaction.
All right, I'm not going to make you happy because I don't want you to puke.
So we don't want that.
Okay,
no,
great.
but so it was wonderful. I went down there also because I did this podcast episode with Max Scherzer, and I started the episode during the NLCS, right? So it was Game 4. I had been
That's when you started the...
Yeah, so I'd been asking for this access to him, and finally the Nationals were like, you know what, we have time, come down and do it, and you can sit with him in the dugout, Game 4 of the NLCS. And so I went, it was like 5 minutes, but I sat with him and I was like, I would love to just continue this conversation if you guys keep rolling, and if you're knocked out, then we'll just have a conversation after the fact, and if you keep going, let's see what we can do. That night, they advanced to the World Series.
And you had front row seats. You had better than front row seats.
Yeah, it was really crazy. Yeah. So I did that, and then it was really cool because it turned into this thing where as they kept going, I talked to him and his wife, and anyway, so that was really cool. And to be down there at spring training and to be able to also sort of continue that was really an awesome thing. But this is about you, and I've just started talking about me for 20 minutes.
No, I love it. I'm going to ask you another question.
Fantastic. Okay. In a minute. So what's the hardest part of your day? What would you say?
The train ride home, knowing I've got to pick up 2 humans, cook for them, do homework, do all. That's honestly, the transition is the hardest part of the day. The 5 o'clock wake up call is fine. Getting into work is fine because I do what I love. I mean, the fact
like
that the fact that I get paid to do the things that I love. 100 years ago, I thought I would actually, when I was at GMA, I thought, oh my gosh, I get to work every side of my brain. I could, talk about politics. I can make an omelet. I can make an omelet while talking about politics. But our industry is horrendous. And I tell people, you have to have the thickest skin to do television, to do sports, to do any of this. And if you really love it, you really have to keep yourself in check. And I consistently tell myself, what other people think of me is none of my business. And on my finest day, I'm like, I'm good. And on my worst day, I'm on the train calling my sister saying, you got to talk me off the ledge. And she's like, okay, here we go. She's like, you've been through worse. You got this. And then by the time I pull into, the train station, I'm good.
Wait, so you just said what other people think of you
is none of my business.
And you know who just said that? Oprah.
Clearly she's tapped into my kitchen and she heard me say it, obviously.
I went to the Vision tour, right? When it was
the one
in Brooklyn.
last week?
Yeah.
In Barclays?
Yes.
Did you cry then?
Almost.
Did you throw up?
No.
Okay.
I almost cried. So, but that was one of the things that I think it was it might have been Rachel Hollis who said it, if you're familiar with Rachel Hollis. So she's like, would you say she's like self-help type of motivator?
Is she, like motivational
who has a
speaker?
podcast.
Yeah.
She wrote the book, Girl Wash Your Face, and all these other things. And so, but I thought that was pretty interesting and something I hadn't considered before. But I think that that's a huge thing in this business, especially because, like, for me, it's like until I could start saying, like, other people's expectations, like, it truly is what I want to do, right? And if I don't want to do that, but that's maybe what the norm would be, that's okay.
Right. And, we have similar paths in that we worked in sports, we were at ESPN, we left, we came back. At what point did you say, okay, this career, this calling is very important to me, but I'm also married and I have children. How on earth am I going to do both of these things? Are you still squaring that, or did you say, no, I'm going to leave this, I'm going to be with these babies, and that's it?
I think you're always kind of squaring it. I think, like, the moment for me was in my garage. I was sitting in my car, and at ESPN, I was doing the 6 o'clock show there, and I was doing it. They had transitioned to having me do it solo, which was awesome. It was really cool. It was great when I had a co-anchor, too, because I loved him. He was hilarious. But it was fun and a great challenge, and they decided that they were going to make that an opinion hour. And so what happened was, nuts and bolts of it don't really matter. But it was like, I started to kind of like feel like, hey, there's something that it feels different. And maybe there's going to be a change coming around, or what is it? And it was brought to my attention, you know what, we're making that opinion. We want you to do SportsCenter in the morning to be part of this show team. And this is what we want. It's going to be great, da-da-da. So to their credit, they were into it, but it was my decision. And honestly, it was the first time that I was like, it doesn't feel right the way that came about, and there are other things I really want to do. So I was like, I called my mom, and I was in the car in my garage because I had to like let someone know the next day because I had waited so long. And I was like, I don't know what to do, but I think I'm going to not do this, and I think I'm just going to go on my own and figure it out and go see what's out there. And she was like, what would you tell Sibby? You know Sibby, my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Go. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, that was my moment where I was like, I can be okay with this. And that's actually, who knows if I'm making the right decision, but I want to do other stuff, and I definitely still want to do sports, but I don't want it to look like this.
Right.
And I don't want to be controlled by this.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I had a very different ESPN story.
Okay.
It was me and my, 17,000 of my friends got that call on April 26th.
Because you're, okay.
I was part of that, the layoff. What are we calling it? What was the
there was
nomenclature?
another word they
It was
were
a
using.
Marysol, we love you, but it's not you, it's us. And I was like, okay, click. But it's,
Was
it's
it that most recent round of them?
It was the most recent round in like 2017 or 2016.
That was right after my whole situation.
Right, and all all the people that I had covered Little League World Series with and boxing with, my phone was blowing up, and I was just like, listen, this too shall pass. We'll figure it out. We always do. And I think you're either forced into that decision, or you have to, or you're lucky enough to try to make that decision. When you're forced to make that decision, honey child, you rearrange your life real fast. Mm-hmm. It's how I became such an entrepreneur.
Right.
Because you're like, now what? What am I going to do?
But it's also exciting because you can go out there and think about different things and really take those steps. Because, for me, so I often thought, damn, because my situation was different, and if I had been part of that group, which didn't happen long after I decided to leave, for me, it was like battling but this was my call. And maybe that was not, maybe there's negativity looked at now because I made that call, right?
But do you regret it?
No. But there were times that it wasn't easy. And what I'm saying is maybe it would have been easy had I been part of a group that you don't have a choice, right? And
if they're just
well, yeah, because then you're like, is this, and then, there was a struggle with people immediately. Colleagues of mine in the business would be like, if I would see them out somewhere else, hey, how are the kids?
Oh,
and
no.
I struggled with that for a long time, being like, what the hell? Why is that the first thing you're asking me? How about, why don't you ask me what I think about X, Y, Z? And I love my kids, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
But there was a pride thing that goes along with it too.
Right, of course.
So there was. Now this has turned into Dr. Phil. This is definitely not where I saw this
we've
conversation
gone from
going.
Oprah to Dr. Phil.
But yeah, so then what'd you do after that? What was your...
Post ESPN, I hosted a digital talk show called Little Things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I got to spread my wings. It was my first foray into digital television, and I kind of went in there saying, I never called it fake television, but my mother would say, what channel are you on? Are you on next to News 12? How can I find you? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is definitely not traditional television, but because it was so loose, we could do tons of things.
That's awesome.
But it was also a startup, so it was over and done with in 4 months. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, now what? I got bills to pay. And I just kind of bounced around and started to create shows, was writing treatments, was taking every meeting possible, and kind of just left television altogether and really took a long, hard look at what am I going to do? My circle is small enough as it is. I can't possibly make it any smaller. And so I started meeting other people. My dear friend Marnie over here, who I refer to as my Olivia Pope, she's like, you have to meet Stephanie. And Stephanie ended up bringing me into CT Bites, and I started doing podcasts, and they introduced me to other people who would introduce me to other people. And before I knew it, I was avoiding a phone call from a 718 number, and I thought, that's a collector. Who do I owe money to now? And it ended up being the man who is now my boss at the New York Mets. So, the universe has a very strange way of kind of putting you in different positions, but I've always been open to the experience. Mm-hmm. And so it was very strange. I never in a million years would have thought I'd be the PA announcer for the New York Mets. I mean, I love sports. I love my New York teams. But it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So it's brought me here next to you, Lindsay.
Yes, amen. Wait, so that's amazing. So, and he says what when you pick up the phone finally?
I had I had gotten an email from someone within the Mets organization that I ignored. I was like, this name doesn't sound familiar. And it was one of those, you're like, you got to take someone to lacrosse, you got to take someone to baseball. You're like, I smell dinner burning, and I was like, I'll get to this later. And so literally the 718 number is calling me day in and day out and day in and day out. I go back to this email, and I'm like, who is this person at the New York Mets, David Newman, and he's referencing this producer that I had worked with years ago, and I was like, none of this makes sense. And so finally, when I did answer the call, I just said, this is Marysol, and the person on the other end said, you are the hardest person to get a hold of. And I was like, well, what do you want? And he said, it's Joe DeVito with the New York Mets. And I said, what do you want? And he goes, well, I was going to ask you if you're interested in working for us. I said, you do realize I'm a Yankees fan. He said, that's fine. I'm a Yankees fan, too. And I was like, okay, I'm all ears.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm all ears. And that's the rest, as they say, is history. He said, we're changing we're cleaning house, and we're looking for a new PA announcer, specifically a Latina. And because I am exactly who I am, I said, well, why now? Why suddenly in 2018 are you changing course? And he said, well, it's, brass has decided, Queens, we want to reflect Queens. And I said, all right, well, not bad. And I said, well, why me? And he's like, can you just come to Flushing and just
slow
try
your
this?
roll?
Yeah. So he sent me a script, and he said, can you just record this at home? And this was before I think I met you, because I did not have access to like a fancy mic. I literally used my phone. I was in my closet. I told the boys to shut up. I said, give me like 15 minutes. I got to do this thing. I was in my pajamas, and they gave me the opening day script. And I remember getting to everyone, and I was like, Brandon Nemo? He's one of our guys. And I was like, And I did not have the wherewithal to like go listen or find his name. And I was like, you know what? If this is meant to be, I'm going to say it however I want to say it. And the next day they said, can you come to the ballpark? By the way, it's Brandon Nimmo, not Brandon. And I said, well, does he know he's not pronouncing his name correctly? Because I really think it should be. So I went to the ballpark, and Joe DeVito and David Newman said, we started with 1,000 people, and we're down to 30. And so we're stacking you guys differently, and I drove to Citi Field. It was the first time I had been to Citi Field, and it was a gloomy day, and they put me in the family room. So ballparks have, like in the bowels of a ballpark, a family room, and it's where, the players' wives or girlfriends
Oh my God,
and their
I
families.
love this. Yes.
So
yes, and they have like fun, colorful
I was
stuff,
playing
and
with the
it's-
Easy Bake Oven.
Yes.
Literally, like playing with the Easy Bake Oven. Joe DeVito comes in, and he's like, really? The Easy Bake? And I said, I've never seen one of these. So I go up to the booth, and there's this very, ominous-looking man, and he gives me a script. So this time it was sight unseen. It was, we're giving you this
Okay.
thing, and you have to read it. And so I looked at this guy, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be invited back. Do you think I could run the bases after this? And he literally just stared at me, and I was like, so I guess I can't take BP either. And he was like, can you just read the words, please? And I did the thing, and the way that our PA booth is positioned, there's a very steep drop, so you can't really see directly under you. You can
Okay.
see home, and you can see the diamond, and it's beautiful, but you can't really see what's directly under you. And little did I know, Joe DeVito and Jeff Wilpon were literally inches below me while I was doing this, while I was acting the fool, asking if I could, take BP. So I did the thing, and I was kind of like hanging out, and he's like, you got to go. We have more people coming in that we have to audition. And so I left, and by the time I got to Westport, I was at my niece Isabella's lacrosse game. And
did you want it more at that point? 'Cause you
No,
were
I didn't
into-
put any expectation on it. I really didn't. I was like, if I'm going to do this, great. If I'm not going to do this, great. And I'll just figure out the next step. And I was literally at Ginny Parker, and now I had Joe DeVito programmed in my phone. And he said,
718.
yeah, exactly, the 718 number. And he said, well, you impressed someone, and we'd like to offer you this position. And I was like, oh my gosh. He goes, there's a catch. And I was like, of course there's a catch. And he said, management would like to split the position between you. And I said, and a man, and so you've picked a man to do this with me. And he's like, yes. And I was like, I knew you guys were not going to have the balls to do this. And he's like, it's what we need to do right now. And I was like, well, who is it? He said, it's Howard Cosell's son. I was like, I don't care if it's Michael Jordan's grandson. Colin is now one of my closest friends. His name is Colin Cosell. He does a great Howard Cosell impression. Literally, if you close your eyes, it's like talking to Howard Cosell.
That's amazing.
And we did the thing, and it was great. And my first game was horrible. It was, we played the Cubs, and this fog set in. I grew up watching American League Baseball my whole life. I was not well versed in the double switch. I couldn't see the bullpen, and live television is a great teacher of just, if you make a mistake, make it big and keep it moving.
So what do you have to do as a PA announcer? Essentially, is it similar to play-by-play, but you were doing it for the entire stadium?
It's different than play-by-play, because play-by-play, you're literally, it's like being like a kind of like a war correspondent. You're watching how things unfold, and you're narrating what unfolds. As a PA announcer, I always say if I'm doing my job well, you don't even realize that there is one. Your voice is just kind of there guiding the fans through the experience of 9 innings. You know, you're kind of aware that there's someone there.
So are you calling what the pitch is? And
no,
okay.
I say, now batting number 20, the second baseman, Lindsay Czarniak. Yeah, I just made you the second baseman, whatever.
No, I like that. I'd like to be a shortstop.
Okay. I know, me too. I actually want to be a catcher.
You're like the leader. Catcher?
Because I like to see everything. And I have big ham hocks, so it would serve me well to be a catcher. So I announce all the batters as they come up. You would think in this day and age there would be this is actually funny that I think about it now. There would be like a bat phone in the dugout that would say, "Okay, I'm going to bring in a new pitcher." We literally have to put binoculars on and look around to see, like, the bullpen is like over by the stacks. And not every team has their numbers on the front.
Yeah.
So you're kind of guessing. You're looking at lineups, and then the double switch. If you remove a second baseman, you have to put someone in to replace. It's a whole situation. Don't become a PA announcer. It's really complicated. Is really what it boils down to.
So are you splitting the time with Cosell? Like you'll do one, he does one, or are you there together ever?
The way we. He is also the little brother I never had nor wanted, because he often comes to games that I'm calling just because he wants to hang out. We separated by series, so I'll do a series and then he does a series. We fought over the Subway Series. I win every time because I'm older and wiser. So it would be weird if I did an inning and then he did an inning.
Right,
But the brain trust did get together and say, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? The first year we did it, because ballparks have Puerto Rican Pride Day or Dominican Pride Day. And the first year, for some strange reason, he got all the Latino holidays. And he would call me and say, oh my gosh, how do I pronounce this nice last name? And I'd say, sorry, sink or swim, dude. You should have studied Spanish. So last year they were like, okay, Marysol, you have to do these specific games because, we have these dignitaries coming in. By the way, the Slavic names I can't do to save my life.
That's all right up my alley.
Well,
I'm going to... So we would make a hell of a team.
I'm going to call you next time, right?
Yeah, dzień dobry, that's good morning.
Exactly.
Dobronoc. It's interesting, and I'm curious what if you kind of hear stuff about this or what you think with your background. But Anibal Sanchez is a star pitcher for the Nationals, and when I was doing that conversation with Max Scherzer and I started talking to his wife, it was very obvious she the whole time thought that this team was amazing and that she thought they were the team. And Max had played with Anibal on the Tigers when they went to the World Series in 2012, and she said that they identified that he was a piece that they needed on the Nationals, and so they were instrumental in getting him there because he has this gift, and they saw it unfold in person, of being the glue between the Latino players, right, and the ones who are not. And I had never thought about it that way. And we were talking about that a little bit during spring training, and some of the players were saying, yeah, it was him who, even when they were 19 and 31 and they were in this awful slump, and they were down in Miami playing a series, and Anibal had the entire team at his house, and that there's just something about him, But I think in baseball, maybe people think that, but you don't really talk about it, and you certainly don't hear about it, right? Yeah. And the need for that.
Well, in terms of having a Latino player
who really goes out
clubs.
Of his way. Yeah, because the Nationals manager, I talked to him about that this week, and he was like, I always tell the guys, imagine what it would be like if you're from the DR or wherever, and, you're to go there, right? To have the opposite experience. And I just think is kind of simple and obvious, but it's
I
fascinating.
mean, it is, but it only became a requirement for the MLB to have interpreters. I think like 5 years ago, it was not a requirement to have
that's
interpreters on every baseball team, and the vast majority of baseball players come from Latin America. Are you giving us the 2
Yeah, we
minutes
just
and
got a
then shut
2-minute
up?
warning. This is a problem.
So yes, so I do think, and I praise the Mets all the time. They were very aware of the fact that we want the ballpark to sound like the people that come, and also our players, which was, I gave them kudos for hiring me to be able to do that. But even our guys, we have Robbie Cano, we have our new skipper, Luis, who's great. And they do. I think their presence is instrumental. And I think each team has, like you say, the glue.
It's like the secret sauce.
It's the secret sauce, yeah.
Because it's kind of like I also think with baseball, it's August,
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
If you're hot then
Right.
that's when you want to heat up.
Right.
And so that's very interesting. Wait, so how do you do it all? Because with
I have
those
no idea.
amazing jobs,
I
you're
don't-
like, you just mentioned like 5 jobs that are all
I don't know.
over the
Steph
24
keeps
hours.
saying, Jeffs, can one of these can one of these jobs go away? One of them? I don't know. I'm super organized.
Oh.
Super organized. I have to
Really?
be. Yeah.
Like, how do you do it? Like Post-its or?
I do Post-its. I have my organizer. I also my direct
You guys
boss.
should be branding. Wait a minute. Do you have your own? Like, that's what you should do.
Do what?
You should brand an organizer. Like, you should.
Okay, Marnie, can
create-
you do that for me? Thanks.
No, I'm serious. That would be like.
But you know what's so funny? And this just occurred to me. So I've got this boss lady, and my boss at WPIX 11 is also a Westporter, Tracy Chevrier. So I happen to work with women who are moms, who are part of this community, so they kind of get it.
Yeah.
Not that it makes it easier, but
I think this community is super creative.
yes.
In a weird way.
Yes.
Like an awesome way.
Totally.
Right?
I mean, look at this
It's like-
library. Hello.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we could talk forever, Rob. If you're giving us the hook, we'll leave.
Okay, Rob. Yes, Rob is saying thank you. So, Marisol, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Lindsay.
This has
Thank
been an
you.
awesome persona conversation.
So fun.